Now, that was primarily going on in Ohio at the time, but then there was, stuff starting to happen in Georgia, and they said, you really ought to take a look at that. And they said, whoa, we had no idea that was, even going to be on the radar, but they had done a really thorough search. So that was the first thing. So we had these folks. Then we kind of were in a situation where they thought we could. Back to conversation B. Could we really develop our own system? They thought we could, and we thought we could, and then we looked around and said, we really do have the King County Library System has the resources and structure to be able to do that. And at that point in time, I guess, to make this sound like a story, we decided to go forward with it. So the question is, the next question is, why is open source a good alternative for us? First of all, it's contemporary. I think it's the direction a lot of not just public sector but private sector is going in. And I know this for a real fact, and here's why I know it. Because we have a foundation, okay? And our foundation, it has representatives from most of the major companies, and they have very successful people. They got rich people, okay? Rich people who have made a lot of money. A lot of the people made money in the software industry. And one of the people on our foundation, he was actually running a small company at the time, but his previous job at Microsoft was to be the anti-Linux person, okay? That was his job. He studied what it did, what it didn't do, and he came up with reasons why it couldn't work. And he said, open source is definitely the way to go. And not only that, we have a representative on our foundation from Microsoft. And they said, yeah, Microsoft is kind of moving in the open source direction, and we think it's a good idea too, and we want to find out what you're doing because we don't want you to get ahead of Microsoft or we'll look bad because we're on the foundation board. So, we're starting to see all these, these other side, the environment is such that, they're saying open source is the way to go, and it's becoming more of a standard in industry. So we thought that was really important. But other reasons is that, and it supports the collaboration and the shared development, and that's so important. Again, I want to reiterate that. We don't want the same old paradigm. We don't want the same old business model. We don't want libraries to buy something. And no offense to ESI or whatever, we don't want this to be an ESI project. We want this to be a library project, and one that we can all share and participate in. And that's why, and boy, this took some convincing for our board, whatever we do at King County Library System, we want to get it out there and give it to everybody and make sure that everybody can use it and that they'll develop stuff and make things happen, and we'll share in that and we'll grow this thing together. We even at one time, we have some folks at the University of Washington who are on this highfalutin committee to decide what to do with Internet 2. We even suggested that we get this thing done and put it up on Internet 2 and let every public library in the United States, have access to it. But I guess maybe that's still a Gates grant project or something like that. So anyway, it supports a real changed model, so we'll never again have to have that conversation in conversation B, that we can work together and that we can benefit, and we're already starting to see that benefit, and as I say, the folks who have already kind of led the way. We've seen that it can be done. We saw in Georgia and Indiana and other places in British Columbia that it can be done. A local library can develop its own system. Basically, I could go on about the fact that it really does change the model for how libraries can kind of control their own destiny. So that's why we think that open source is a really good situation and a really good direction for our library system to go in. So the next question is why Evergreen? And again, this was one of the systems that was pointed out years ago by our soft resources folks. We also like the spirit of innovation that we saw here. We like the spirit of community that we saw. The idea that this isn't just, again, it's not just a vendor-driven thing, but it's driven by the people who work in the libraries. One of the great things about what's happening in the King County Library System is that this is a system that is being, we've taken basically the fundamental system that's being used in Georgia and others, and we're kind of adding to it. We worked with Galicia and did functional specifications, and all available on our Rascal website. But a lot of what we're doing and how we're tailoring it to our situation is being driven by the people who work in the field. When Bradley goes home from this, from this conference, he's going back to the Kent Library, and he wants to make sure that this system works well at Kent. And, you know, Matt came from the Bellevue Library, and he wants to make sure that this system, when we go up with it, that it does all the things. And I could go on about how, you know, we currently have to go through 17 steps to change the location of a hold, and it takes 7 different steps to delete a book from a collection. And it just shouldn't be that way. So anyway, I get really emotional, Bob, about some of these things. You know, we really do think that this, we saw that happening with Evergreen, and we think we really like that action. There already was a community, obviously there is a community, and it's a growing community, and we felt that we wanted to be part of that, and we thought that we had something to contribute to that. And again, it's not just contributing our work in the development, but it's also making sure that this thing, as much as possibly can, evolves where it is. This is going to sound like communist or something like that, but this is a system of the people, you know? It's got to be driven by the people. It's got to be driven by the needs of the workplace. And, you know, the operations should, you know, what the needs for the operations should drive the software, and the software shouldn't develop how the operations occur in the libraries. And again, you all know that. So that's why we decided that we should go. And besides which, going back to the title, it was cool. It's way cool. This is just so cool. It's so cool to be here. It's so cool to be with all of you guys. I mean, this is where we want to be. I don't want to be at any other place, you know. It's all local effort, and I think that's what's going to give it strength, because that's what gives public libraries. I know, excuse me for academic folks, but the beauty of the public library movement in the United States is that it is local and that it can express itself in different ways. And if we had the ability to take the software that drives our systems and make it unique for our communities, which are all different, and have different needs, you know, how rich could that be, and how rich will it be? And we're starting to see that, and that is just, I mean, I wanted to live long enough to see this day, and it's finally starting to happen. Wow. Excuse me. Okay, before I start to cry. So then the question is, why the King County Library System? Well, first of all, I mean, we are in a really unique and a good position. We're a separate tax district. We have a board of trustees whose only job is to govern the library system. I report to them, and so they can make the decision. We don't have a county IT department or a city IT department that we've got to work with. It's all managed by us. We're in control, basically, of the system. That's the first thing. Second thing is we have great funding. As I mentioned, our public really gets it. 90% of the community we serve have library cards, and 75% of the households use the library at least once a year. And I know that from 3 or 4 different studies by really high-priced research firms. So, I mean, you know, we have a lot of penetration of the market. We got a lot of that going on. So we've got a well-supported system, again, whose interest is in technology and making sure that their library has good technology. We've got a board that has the interest and the support for this to go on. We've got the discretion to make it happen. We've got the funding to make it happen, quite honestly. But you know what? It hasn't been about money. I mean, that's what Marcia was saying, you know, is that, you know, these things aren't as expensive as you originally think. And that's certainly been the case for us. It's really not about the money. It's about the desire, and it's about the, you know, the willingness to take a little bit of risk to make something happen. And then the other thing is that we have a history of innovation. And again, that's in large part due to the community. But it's also in large part due to the people and our staff. You know, people like Jed and Matt and Bradley and Karen and hundreds of others, if not, you know, well, I wouldn't say all of our staff are really into it, but, you know, we've got a lot of really, really savvy staff. You know, a lot of our folks have come from a very, very forward-thinking program at the University of Washington, and so we've got the right mix of people resources to do it.